great contributors. That's another thing. None of them guys in that did not do enough list got a championship except Chauncey. And the thing about Chauncey Billups, and I knew we was going to discuss this, so I got the stats right here. Chauncey Billups, 5-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Defense. Now, is that good? Yes. Is that Hall of Fame? 5 All-Stars, 3 All-NBAs, 2 All-Defenses. Keep in mind, Chauncey Billups played 17 years. You talking about 5 All-Star years, 3 All-NBAs, and if we want to split hairs, let's go on look into what All-NBAs he got. If we want to split hairs, he got All-Defensive Second Team twice. He got All-NBA Second Team, All-NBA Third Team, All-NBA Third Team. Yeah, spooky.
Right. So, okay.
Never was All-NBA First Team. So he was never even the best point guard for a season or had the best season out of point guards. I know that's a tough position to win in, but hey.
Okay, let's think about this. So let's go back to our conversation we had earlier about looking at these players. Matter of fact, let me do it like this. All right.
While you doing that, I'm going to grab my charger and my laptop finna die. 1 second.
Yeah, we don't need that, brother. All right, so this player I have in front of me. Actually, let me go to a website. All right, so this player I have in front of me. Let me find some more stats on him. All right, so he's in the Hall of Fame. He is a 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA. He also has a Finals MVP, and he won. You can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So 6-time All-Star. He's in the Hall of Fame right now. 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA. He won All-Rookie team, and he is a Finals MVP. Only difference is he has 4 rings to Chauncey's 1. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So he was also never the best point guard in his era, like Chauncey. Didn't win all defensive team, and I can't say he impacted that much more. Like he has like a notch above the impact on the game than Chauncey. Who do you think I'm talking about? Like, what before we go there, what do you think about that resume so far?
You said 4 rings?
Mm-hmm.
That's solid, brother.
He averaged, let's round it up and say 16 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds as a guard.
That's solid.
But he was never truly like the best. He probably had like 2 seasons. He was the best player on the team. Never really like the best point guard in that era. He had conversations around it, but he's never like the best.
I think 4 rings and solid numbers starting every year. I think you probably sliding in there as a great contributor.
All right. So what's the difference between Tony Parker and Chauncey Billups? That's what I was talking about.
4 rings, great contributor, Finals MVP for one of the 4, started for all those teams. I gotta go with Tony. That's consistent winning.
Okay, but here's the thing too. I'm finna go back to Tim Duncan and KG because Chauncey played with KG.
Right.
Timmy played with Duncan. So if we're going to compare these two, you have to look at the fact that Tony was in a stable system. He was given the keys to the car that he could drive. Like imagine you had to go outside and you knew your car was there every day. Versus, man, I don't know if I have my car, if I have to take a bike, if I got to take the bus. Like I don't know what I'm finna deal with, but I'm trying to do the best I can to go drive every day. 2 different situations. Your mindset is totally. All I have to worry about is making sure I got enough money for my gas and nothing crazy happens along the way. Versus, man, if it's raining today, I got to make sure that I got to take an umbrella for my bike, and now I make sure I got this for the bus. Like you have to worry about all these other factors. When you have consistency and stability in certain areas of your game or your career, it's gonna look totally different from somebody like a Chauncey who bounced around from the Timberwolves to the Nuggets to the Pistons to this team to that team to that team. So he's not going to be afforded the same rings as Tony Parker when you playing with a first tier or second tier player. Same thing as a KG. And he played with Melo. He played with Sheed and KG. Like, he played with these guys. But we can't sit here and say that Chauncey and Tony Parker are that far apart. Like, I think it's really a splitting hairs at this point. And if you're giving it just because of rings, and I think, okay, what about all defensive team? That's more of an individual award there. So that's why I'm thinking that's why I can't say the rings automatically make you a better player than another player, because we're looking at individual awards now. Defensive team, he has how many he had?
2.
3?
2.
2 versus 0. Individual awards now. Me as an individual player on my defense is better than you. Yes, you got a great floater. Amazing. Your little spin move, amazing. Lovely. I can lock people up. You got rings in one finals MVP to my one finals MVP. These individual awards now.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking stats for stats, records for records, awards for awards. You have 3 more rings than me. So that puts you in a whole different tier than me. And you're not the guy for those other rings. Maybe not even the second guy for all those rings.
Whoa. Let's talk about this now. Was Chauncey Billups the best player? Out of that Pistons team, if you could draft one guy off that Pistons team, you taking Chauncey Billups, not Ben Wallace? The 3-time DPOY Ben Wallace now.
That's what I'm saying. It's arguable. He's 1 or 2.
But I'm saying, though, Tony Parker, not number 1, obviously, for Tim Duncan. But still, Tim Duncan, all-time greatest power forward ever. Tony Parker, Finals MVP. Chauncey Billups, they had a very solid overall team. Like, everybody can admit that.
And look who he beat, though. And he beat
Shaq and Kobe. No, I got you. I feel that. But Tony contributing to winning more than Chauncey Billups. And that's just real. Chauncey, like, the rings mean something, brother. Like, they contributed
to winning. It do mean something,
winning.
but at the same time, we're not gonna sit here and compare Tony being able to eat shrimp and lobster in the back seat of a Lamborghini for years versus Chauncey having a beat up Honda Accord, doing the best he can, going against a Ferrari and beating them. Like, we're not gonna sit here and compare these two vehicles, bro, and tell me that the driver, or at least the passenger side of this car, is gonna be better than somebody in the back seat. Like, we can't sit here and tell me that we're gonna sit and have the same conversation with these guys just because you in a nicer car than I was. So I'm
not liking the comparison for the Pistons. The Pistons was solid. I get they played Shaq and Kobe, but you talking about Chauncey, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace. All great players. All stars at some point in time. All 5 of them. So I'm not going to see it. And now, is they as good as the Spurs? No. But I'm not going to sit here and act like they were some scrubs and Chauncey Billups carried them to the finals. No. I'm not doing that.
Okay, let's do it like this. We're drafting between that 07 Spurs team and the 04 Pistons team. Tim Duncan's first.
Tony Parker second.
Well, you see, I'm taking Ben Wallace over Tony.
I'll take Ben Wallace second. I'll take Ben Wallace
okay,
second.
Then. Thank you.
It's arguable.
Thank you. I was finna say, boy, you sound sick right now. Ain't no way you thinking. Ain't no way I'm thinking that. So, he going Tim Duncan first, Ben Wallace second, because he locking up pretty much any big you had. He locked with Shaq, so that's like, all right, bro.
You got 2 lock-up bigs right there.
Now you're going to have the conversation of, do you want to have Tony versus Chauncey? Now you're starting to debate them two. And you can throw Ginobili in there, honestly. I won't be mad at you. You can argue that. But I think you start to argue Ginobili versus Sheed. That's the real conversation you got to have.
Thanks.
That's the third conversation you need to have. But then you start to look at Rip and Tayshaun. And then, let's say 07. So you got to look at Bruce Bowen. And that shooting guard is almost irrelevant every year. So there's no disrespect to whoever that was. Can't even remember right now. But, whatever. So it's like, the fact that it's Head and Shoulders number 1, Head and Shoulders number 2. We're arguing about these 2 point guards at number 3. That's something to be said. So we can't sit here and act like Tony is that much better when we're in the same space. and you had better help hands down than I did. Like you playing with the all-time great. Somebody's in my first tier. So I can't sit here and be like Chauncey is that much worse than Tony off of 3 rings or 3 rings difference when you were in 1 year you were probably the best player on the court, which is why you won Finals MVP. The second one, you were probably third best player, which Kawhi won that last one.
Okay. Let's also remember now, Chauncey Billups played 17 years, B. 17. He
All
also
right.
played with Melo and them in Denver. Let's
And
not
he was an
forget.
impact player. He was probably the top 3 players on that team.
And they never touched the finals.
Who they run up against too?
Oh, now we talking about
The
who?
Spurs and Lakers.
Bruh, what you want me to tell you? Some guys get it done. Tony
But
contributed more to winning.
you not finna act like Tony was getting it done over Chauncey.
I would like to say he was, bro. I'm not gonna lie. 4 rings
No,
says he
man.
was. And that's not even. I can see the debate if Tony Parker just was like a guy, but Tony also got 4 All-Stars. I get he ain't got no all defensive teams. I get that, but Tony also got some All-Stars and he was All NBA 4 times. So he was a great player on the team. He was solid. I get Chauncey probably was the main guy. He was the captain of the team, whatever you want to say. But neither one of them was their team best player. I would say Tony still contributed more to winning.
If we're talking player for player here, we're talking about individually what can you do for my team versus individually what you can do for my team. Chauncey does more for your team because he plays the other half of the court for you consistently.
But I'm not gonna say that because saying that implies that Tony Parker doesn't play defense or he was a scrub on defense.
I said he was better and more consistent on that end.
Okay, that's valid. Also, though, let's since we here, let's go ahead and do the whole comparison. Let's go ahead and do the whole comparison.
All right.
Progress is not about perfection and being perfect. It's about making growth no matter what. It's about pushing yourself to the limit and beyond those limits. Every challenge that comes your way, you're overcoming them. And it's about striving to become more and doing more. Every single step, every single day, every single dribble is a victory. You've won as long as you're making progress. Because progress is the only goal. So invest into that progress, invest into that dream. Get yourself a reminder that progress is the only goal.
Tony Parker played
Chauncey
18 seasons. Chauncey Billups played 17, so pretty even. Tony Parker went to 17 playoffs. Chauncey went to 12. Like, of course, the Spurs, they longevity, they made the playoffs every year. Only year Tony didn't make the playoffs when he went to Charlotte, and that was just sad.
We count the year, but we don't count the year.
Right, we know you was there, but hey. Tony Parker, 6 All-Stars to Chauncey Billups, 5. So pretty even. They both got 1 Finals MVP. Tony, 4 All-NBA teams to Chauncey's 3. And Chauncey, 2 All-Defensive teams to Tony's 0. They stats pretty even. Now let's look at totals for what they did in their career. Keep in mind now, Tony only played 1 more season more. Tony Parker got almost 4,000 more more points. Got 400 more rebounds. Got 1,500 more assists. Got almost the same amount of steals. Chauncey Billups got 70 more blocks. And Tony played 200 more games. 4,000 more points. 1,000 or 400 more rebounds. 1,000, 1,500, whatever more assists. Tony is contributing more to winning. And I get Chauncey was a better defender. I get it. But I'm taking the 4,000 more points. All the percentages benefit Tony. Chauncey shot threes a little bit better. His best season, Chauncey averaged 19 and a half. So Chauncey never averaged more than 20 points. Tony averaged 22 his best season. They averaged the same amount of rebounds at their best. Chauncey best was 8.5 assists. Tony was 7.7. They averaged the same amount of steals and blocks. I'm liking Tony, bro. I get I get how you might feel like the contribution was similar, But what affected winning? Who affected winning more? Clearly, it was Tony Parker. More points,
All right,
more rebounds, more assists.
I'm trying to look up because I know Chauncey had injuries early in his career.
Chauncey had injuries at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, but okay, look at it like this. You put Chauncey on the Spurs. He's hands down number 2 on that team. Like, there's no conversation to be had. He plays both ends of the floor. He's captaining the front end of that defense, and Tim Duncan's anchoring the back of that defense. Hands down, the second best player. Manu would give you spurts and moments. I think Chauncey comes in. He's like, bro, I'm number 2 on this team. When you flip Tony, put him on the Pistons. What happens to the Pistons team?
I think they still good. Matter of fact,
I'm not saying they're not bad, but I'm taking Chauncey. What I'm saying is we had to put them in the same conversation. That's the worst we can do. I think you have to put Chauncey and TP in the same conversation. Now, if I had to say who's better, I'm taking Chauncey. Player for player. We're drafting these guys. Who are you picking?
Tony Parker.
Why are you saying that? Don't say nothing about him impacting winning, get stats and stuff like that. Player for player, who you taking?
The better scorer, and I feel like I can trust Tony to take over a game more than Chauncey Billups. If I had to make one of them the number one option, give me Tony Parker. I don't think Chauncey's a great scorer in any facet of the game. I don't think he's a slouch. You know what I mean? I think he's a good defender. I think he's solid. I think he hang his hat on defense, though, and that benefited that Pistons team because they were a defensive team. You talking about the team with
Spurs were too.
You right, but what was the Spurs calling card? Ball movement.
Defense.
No, remember the Spurs.
Early on.
Tony wasn't there early on like that though. The first 2 championships
by the time he got there, it changed. So I give you that.
Yeah. So, but defense, obviously they play great defense too. But a calling card for that Spurs team was ball movement. How well the ball moved between Tony Parker, Manu, Tim, Boris Diaw, Bruce Bowen. Them guys moving the ball, playing together consistently. And that's not to say I don't think Chauncey Billups can pass or nothing like that. But I think they are 2 different players that benefited what their teams did. And Chauncey's team was a defensive team, and he was good for that. He fit that role. You got Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace behind you. Tayshaun Prince, long, athletic. Chauncey Billups guarding that point guard. He locking up. That's what they hang their hat on. Mm-hmm. Tony and them could play D. Obviously, they were very solid on defense. Got Tim Duncan back there. Had Tiago Splitter. You know what I mean? Guys that was going to protect the rim. But Tony could score. Tony could give you buckets if you needed it. Manu was the same way. He going to come off the bench and give you buckets. But they moving the ball consistently. They playing together. And Tony is one of the key components of that. I think I'm taking Tony for that offensive skill set more than I'm taking Chauncey for the defense. And obviously
so Tony is
to win it.
Tony is a better scorer. I will give you that. But you got to think, too, Chauncey's coming from the mindset of the pure point guard mindset, too. So I think if you said, Chauncey, go give me 30, he's like, cool, I'm going to give you 30. But now, will you have to remind him more to give you 30? Yes, because his mind is programmed to be a point guard. But I feel like if you put Chauncey in a score-first mindset, he's not going to have an issue giving you that because you look at who he played with early in his career. He played with Boston, Toronto. So he played with Paul Pierce a little bit. And Toronto, 97. He played with T-Mac, I think. That was the T-Mac year. And Vince Carter years, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he went to Denver. And that was just early Denver, so I don't even remember. It's like Kim Mutombo might have been on that team. I remember the early 2000s. But anyway, he got Minnesota. He played with KG, so he's deferring to KG. And he's still trying to find his footing with that team. And he probably was hurt, to be honest with you. Mm. Yeah, that first year he played 13 games. And then Detroit really found himself. So team basketball, where everybody's getting some. I think Rip Rasheed is probably the scorer on that team. Then he moved to Denver. And of course, that was the Melo time. So he's answering the Melo. So Melo, make sure he getting set up and squared away. New York, that was that's that next Melo team, right? So that was them. And he played with the Clippers. That was Chris Paul in them years. He went back to Detroit. So he was always saying, "Hey, I'm setting you up, big guy. I'm setting you up, Melo. So I'm setting up KG. I'm setting up my big. I'm setting up. I'm a floor setter. I'm a floor general. I'm not looking for him to score, but he can also say, "Hey, you're not going to score on me." I think that's the difference there. So you're taking a score first point guard, which is cool. But I'm looking at both ends of the floor, which you can provide for me overall. So I'm thinking Chauncey, I'm taking him one notch higher. If we're picking players, I'm taking Chauncey. So yes, but here's the thing too. Game winner, who you picking?
Tony.
You sound sick now, bro.
I get it. The big shot, Billups, whatever. Tony.
No, forget the nickname. I don't care about the nickname. Tony for 3.
Tony.
You're not choosing Tony for a 3 ball.
I'm
You're not
choosing
Tony. You're not choosing Tony Parker for a 3
I
ball, bro.
won't
You're not
equal
doing
dollar. I'm choosing Tony, brother. Tony is
bro,
the
you're
guy.
not picking in today's game. You're picking Tony Parker over Chauncey Billups for you down 3 points.
I'm choosing Tony Parker to get a bucket over Chauncey Billups. I don't care where the bucket got to be from. Don't care.
I'm picking Chauncey, bro.
Do you know Tony Parker career high is 55? You want to know what Chauncey?
I know he can score the ball.
You know what Chauncey Billups career high was? 39. Never even had a 40 ball.
Okay.
And I know that ain't everything, but if I need a bucket, give me Tony.
Listen, if I need a game to get me go crazy, I'm picking Tony too. But if I have to pick a player as my point guard, of course I'm going to go score first with Tony. Of course. But we're not going to sit here and act like Tony averaging 20 and Chauncey averaging 10. It's not that big of a jump, especially when you got inconsistency around you and you're dealing with more injuries than Tony did. So I just feel like for me personally, they're close enough in the category that I'm like, and wherever you have one guy, you got to put him at least at worst case scenario, mention him. Because I think we're giving, this is why I say we give too much weight to rings. Because Tony's rings do not weigh the same as Tim Duncan's rings.
Well, obviously, if you're the number one guy.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. But Chauncey is the number one guy, essentially, for those Pistons teams.
Them Pistons teams was winning by committee, not by individual.
But who's the number one guy? No, don't do that now. Who's the number one guy on that team?
Winning by committee. Nobody was
who's the number one guy? No, bro. So you trying to tell me the floor setter for that team means nothing now?
Brother.
It ain't Jeff Teague and the Hawks, bro, where it's just straight ball movement. I'm the point guard. So Rip ain't scoring without me. Tayshaun Prince ain't scoring without me. She the only one who's scoring without me. She's the only one who's scoring buckets without me having to set the floor. Ben Wallace, but you averaging 4. So we ain't talking about your offense.
We ain't talking about that at all.
Bro, Rip ain't getting into his game without me. Yes, you need the screens and everything. We got to pass you the ball. Me. Tayshaun Prince, you athletic, non-scoring wing like that, bro. Especially young Prince. You weren't getting buckets like that. So it's Prince and it's she and Chauncey getting your buckets. Like, go get a bucket. They're the ones you call. Rip, you coming off screens. Prince, you probably coming off screens and more slashing. So Tayshaun Prince and Richard Hamilton not score the ball as much if you don't have Chauncey Billups there setting the floor for him. This ain't Jeff Teague. We talking about little ball movement Hawks where scoring by committee, winning by committee. No, bro. The offense begins with me every time. Now we're probably gonna say, hey, we need to get Rip going the first couple plays. Cool. Get shit touches. Cool. I'm not finna sit here and act like Chauncey Billups was not like the guy on that team. This is win by committee, but there's tiers on that Pistons teams, and Chauncey's on that first tier.
Okay. So we don't put this is my last thing. We just have to agree to disagree. Do we not put more stock in Tony Parker winning Finals MVP on Tim Duncan's team than Chauncey Billups winning Finals MVP with the Pistons with those guys you just said cannot score without him. Like,
Can I be honest with you?
go ahead.
No,
All right, bro. Then we agree
because
to disagree.
Chauncey was the best player. Chauncey was the best player on that team.
All right, bro. We just decided we were taking Ben Wallace over Chauncey if we had to draft somebody.
He's the better player, but on that team and in that series,
He was the most
I'm taking
valuable.
him. He's the guy. Yeah, the most valuable.
Okay, but
He provided on both the floor.
okay, I just feel like if I'm playing on a team with an all-time great player like Tim Duncan, and I was the best player for the whole series, that says more than me being the best player on a very like win by committee type of team. I just think so. I'm sorry to tell you, brother. Like that, I'm the best player next to Tim Duncan. Like, what we talking about?